Hey guys, welcome to Vienna. Well, this is Vienna Baptist Church. Here's the church right here. It's locked, so we're not even going there. That's not even why we're here. We're in this little hamlet on Cemetery Road right here because we're on our way, possibly, to Moscow. But in order to get to Moscow, I wanted to show you some quintessential Maine things. So, first of all, in Vienna, we have this beautiful sign here that states all the Viennas in the United States. So you have the big Vienna in Austria, 4,225 miles away. But then you got in Alabama, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, Missouri, North Carolina, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, South Dakota, Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. Hot dang. The United States, we are not very creative with our names, are we? But, yeah, so we're in Vienna, Maine, though, and it's very cute. If you look right here, look at this. A little pond, the water's coming down from this old rock dam that they made. It's beautiful. Now, admittingly so, we did not have to stop off in Vienna, but it is right next to Mount Vernon, where I live. Just realized I could have walked down on the dam. But look at this right here. All these geese. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's like a flock of geese that are just cruising down the road. You guys are into getting old saws that are hand-painted with stuff. This is your community. But let me show you this. Look at the family. Hey, guys. You know, you didn't have to run away. So obviously not much of a swimming pond, but it's pretty. Good view. Oh, yeah. So I was going to tell you why that I actually wanted to stop off here. We're almost there. There's one specific reason why we stopped off in Vienna, and it wasn't because I distinctly remember from a Dallas episode back in the 1980s. I swear there was a scene when JR and Sue Ellen and Bobby and the whole clan were taking a train, like an overnight train, from Vienna to Moscow. I swear that was the case. Maybe I imagined it because it sounded cool. But I saw this sign. Really, it's a tourist trap. So I'll show you. This is our typical Maine tourist trap right here. So as the crow flies, here are... These look like European capitals to me. Rome is 5 miles away. Paris is 31. Lisbon, Athens, Madrid, Moscow, Belfast, Belgrade, and Stockholm. Wow. I'll tell you this much. Moscow, I wish I was a crow, because it says 37 miles. I believe it's actually more like 55. But hey, it's all good, right? It's all good. Summer flowers here in Maine. That's not actually why I'm walking on the side of the road like a champ, trying to recreate a scene from Pet Sematary when the trucks go by. Nope, we're walking right over here. There is a reason. There is a method to this madness. And it's not the Millstream Grange where people would have met. It is actually the Waite House right here. This cute little house. This house, which we can't go in, but I'm showing it to you anyway in this scenic area. This was the birthplace of Milton Bradley. Do you remember who Milton Bradley is? Milton Bradley, like the game of life. He created it. Yeah, he was born here in this house in, I think it was like 1837, 1836, sometime in the 1830s. And then he and his family moved to Springfield, Massachusetts in, I think it was 1847. That's where he ended up spending the rest of his life. But here is where everything started. This is where he was a young boy. So I wonder if this is where he originally started thinking of that idea of the game of life. And by the way, that's one of my favorite games. But when you think of different board games here in the United States, it's Milton Bradley. So, yeah. So there you go. All right, so let's hop in the car. We're heading to Moscow because that's what I wanted to do today. So join me. Maybe you'll learn something or see something cool along the way. We are at a stoplight that they have installed for construction. I say installed because in this part of Maine especially, there aren't a lot of stoplights. They only magically appear when they're building something and then they're taken away again. But we're almost to Farmington, and here's this awesome, here's Norm's. Look at Norm's. I have no idea what Norm's is, but you know, I was trying to sell that one up. But I'm pretty sure that they set this light timer for like 5 minutes as I just sit here. But as you guys stare at the car in front of us, I wanted to tell you a story. So it's funny when you're coming around. Well, it's not funny. This is just the way that Maine life is like there's a lot of farm stands and produce stands like as you drive down the road. So if you want that type of stuff, you definitely have to have cash on you. They don't take debit card. They don't take check. Well, they might take check, but it's definitely not a cash-free thing to be doing in this area. People want cash because then they don't have to declare it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hang on. God. There's the river down there. River over there. All right, back to focusing. Well, we have the joys right now of summer driving. Lots of the asphalt's been, well, they're paving pretty much. Like, so on all of these side roads right now, on the main side roads, not as in the state of Maine, but as in like the central ones when you're driving around, they've decided that now is the ideal time to tear things up, pave. So there's lots of stop and go, stop and go. Yay. On a cool point though, I was going to stop, but then we actually were moving. I saw a sign for a horse and buggy. So we must be in the middle of Amish country again. Which just throws me for a loop why they would want to settle in Maine. They're in Delaware, they're in Pennsylvania, and then they're here. Huh, go figure. See, there's the sign. I had to stretch my legs because of all the traffic. We're in Norridgewock. I don't know. So, no idea how to pronounce it. But we had a choice to make, either to take 201A or 201. And I decided to do 201A because I think there'll be more areas for me to pull off and to like look at stuff. But I had to stop here because look at this post office. I mean, it's not your quintessential like early 1900s, late 1800s for the those grand type of for the post offices that you'd see like when we were in the village of Camden. I mean, this one though, this spells 1970s, 1960s to me. And I think it's cute. So I had to show it to you guys. And it serves no purpose, but between the block lettering up there and the style, I also feel like I'm kind of on like a military base. So, thank you. Pretty cool. It's funny how different things, like how the different architecture styles, different time periods are really like appealing. Like, I really love the colonial era. I love the federal era. But I also love like mid-century stuff. 1950s, 1960s. All right, here we go again. Well, we're in the village of, I think it was Anson, and the Kennebec River is right to our right. And this is actually where we're really just going to follow the Kennebec all the way to Moscow, because that's where the Wyman Lake is. Water's pretty high. Water's pretty high. once we pass the river, and this is at the tail end of it, but as we were driving along the river to get to swing across, this is what you'll find. Tons and tons of cornfields and little farms dotted along the way. But what I wanted to stop off for, and that's why we're doing this for the corn, is I would think at this time of year the corn would be a little bit higher. I mean, it is July 20th. But I think what's going on, and I'm not a farmer, but I'm pretty sure on this because I do know enough about it, is you just have, we've had so much rain that we need some hot days in the 80s to kind of just dry out the ground and let these things shoot up. And if we get some decent weather, I expect, that's what's going to happen with all this corn. But still, it's cool to see. I love seeing corn. I haven't seen corn in a while. So, well, I take that back. I saw cornfields in the far eastern part of Poland. Story for another day. So we are at the Arnold's Way rest area. There goes a logger, which is only fitting because one of the reasons all the trucks go by. We're actually on a busier road than one would think, because this way, known as the Arnold Way, Benedict Arnold Way, you follow along the Kennebec River. In 160 miles, you hit Quebec. Yeah, pretty cool. But, and there's some history behind that with Benedict Arnold. I don't remember it right now. But what I was going to share, which I think is cool, and I was just reading about this, is the white pine trees. Now, I don't know if these are white pine, because honestly, back in my Boy Scout days, I could identify the differences between trees. I know what a birch is, but for the white pine, what I understand is that the white pine trees were the ones that were most prized by the King of England for the mast for the trees. That's right, for his ships. So they made this policy for the settlers that specifically white pines were meant for the king, and that's it. So there was a lot of, bitterness and some of the animosity that was developed over the fact that the pine trees that would be marked with like a triangle, I think. I don't know. But anyways, there was a special mark. It was signifying that it belonged to the king. So the settlers were upset because the same pine was really good for building homes, for churches, and other stuff. So there's your little bit of history from the 1600s. And we'll pretend these are white pines. And my bad. To mark that they were king pines, it would be a upward arrow with 3 hatchet marks. So there you go. I also learned, while we're here, it was the Native Americans that had first learned how to tap the maple trees for maple syrup. And they were the ones that shared that with the settlers. And that's where that came about. So there you go. Go figure, right? We literally maybe a minute and a half, not even a minute, past the rest area where we were. We just passed a sign. It was covered, so it wasn't worth stopping, but I could catch out of the corner of my eye. We just passed the point that is the halfway point between the North Pole and the equator. I believe that's the 48th parallel. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But that's pretty cool, right? Yeah. It also means that we're up north. And we keep getting further up north. Oh my God. And look at the roads, in case you're wondering. Beautiful mountains in the distance. Actually, it's gorgeous. And almost there. Well, we are in the final stretch now. Just passed through the town of Bingham. It's interesting being up here because you see all of these little trails for the ATVs. Oh, there's the sign for Moscow. Just past the border. We made it. Woohoo! I know that was kind of weak. it'll get louder when we get outside and see the few landmarks that I wanted to see of this village. But see, look at this guy right here. Look. This is not what I have where I'm from. You can't drive on the road on a UTV or an ATV. That's just not how it works. I'm so excited. I made it to the Moscow Town Hall. The last time that I was in Moscow was in the 1990s. Went in 94 and then again in 99. And I'll tell you, that Moscow was completely different than here. It had the Red Square and millions of people. This Moscow, I think, has a population of like 900. No, maybe 500. So we're at the Moscow Town Hall. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, okay, that's cool. So did they name this after Moscow? The way the story goes, or my understanding of it is, after Benedict Arnold's men made their way through here, 1783, Joseph Baker and his family, his wife and his 6 kids, came up here from Reedfield, which is actually just south of Mount Vernon, where we started this journey in Vienna. So Joseph Baker came up here. His wife and him had a 7th child who actually was the first person born in this town. And then, lo and behold, as the years went on, more Bakers moved to this town. They were related, but it wasn't actually his immediate family. And now, of course, more people came up here to settle as well, including Mr. Temple, who in 1804, I don't really know who he is, but I'm just stating his name, and he came up here to start a sawmill, and that increased the population. So you fast forward a few years, and in 1812, the town was informally known as Bakerstown, for obvious reasons, because of the families and that family. But as they went through the incorporation process, they couldn't use that name because it was already being used by a town that we all know and love, known as, that would later become good old Poland. Not as in the country, but as in Poland, Maine. And then finally, they asked to be called Northfield instead, but Northfield was already the name of a village or town in Washington County, which is way over on the eastern part of Maine. So finally, they were given the name of Moscow, and this is where the write-up seemed a little bit weird for me. They wrote it, they wanted to be named after the Russian city that where its citizens burned the city to the ground to get rid of the French soldiers. And when I read that, I'm thinking to myself, wait, you mean when Napoleon went into Moscow? Is that what we're talking about? So, for whatever reason, I still don't understand the connection, because that's what it was on the town website and on the state website for the historical factors of Moscow. But they wanted to name this after the same Moscow over there, because I don't believe there were French soldiers here in this part of town that they burned to the ground. So, there you go. So, after that long-winded explanation as to how this area got its name of Moscow, I'm looping us around to Wyman Lake, which is really what it's known for now. I thought we could actually go on to the to where the dam part is, but it appears to be blocked off. But as we drive over, here's Baker Mountain right here. So this is like a local ski area for the natives. Never heard of it. But you can't snowmobile up it. But it looks like it would be something that if I lived in the area and didn't want to drive to Sugarloaf or Sunday River because it's too damn far, we'd go here. Well, I've learned more about our buddy Benedict Arnold and why he was up here in the first place. He was tasked by General George Washington to take a force of like 1,100 men, 1,700 men, doesn't matter, of about 1,000 men, a little over 1,000 men. And they were supposed to go up the Kennebec River, up to the St. Lawrence, meet up with another guy, Mr. Montgomery, and then they were going to attack Quebec City. That was the plan anyway. But the issue is the canoes that they made up here to go up to Kennebec, they didn't really work out. So they ended up only getting about 600 of the soldiers even made it up there. And Benedict Arnold and his forces had to surrender to the British commander up in Quebec City. I looked again in my information, 1,100 soldiers. That's pretty crazy when you think about it, size-wise. Like tasking, go take this force, and then if you defeat them, it's a major victory for us. Just puts things in perspective. So I've been driving around Lake Wyman, and I have to tell you this. You have to be able to pull off at the different like scenic overlays, because otherwise you can't see anything. So right now, we're at a rest stop. And what I was trying to get us to was this hydroelectric plant, which I believe is in the beginning, but I missed it. Or they blocked it off, and it's a shame because it's the largest one in all of Maine. And like the walkway across, like where the dam is, it's over 3,000 feet long. But instead, I have to show you this, which isn't bad. But this used to not be here. They had to flood this area. Lake Wyman is 13 miles long, and it was the Kennebec River, and then they flooded it after they built the dam that they built back in the early 1930s, and flooded a couple river towns. And you can still get remnants of the few river towns that were here. Of course, Moscow, which is why I came up here, I wanted to check out one of the cemeteries, but I can't find it, and I don't have a cell phone signal. So I can't figure out where the cemetery is, because one of Benedict Arnold's men was buried up here. And it was in one of the older cemeteries that was then flooded, so they moved all of those, to a bigger cemetery, and I just don't know where they are. But anyway, Lake Wyman. I'm a little bit underwhelmed, to be honest. And I'm also shocked by the number of cars. It's actually a big pain, to be honest, because there's so many people that are coming and going, especially the loggers. And I'll say that was, so there was two reasons why that they decided to dam this up, if you will. They wanted to generate it for the hydroelectric power, but also is for the loggers. They could log farther downstream and then have the logs just come down to the spot right here, and it was easier to harvest them in this section. That's what my understanding is. As the bugs swirl around, for my fishermen that might be watching this, I wanted to just read off to you a list of the different fish. Salmon, brook trout, lake trout, rainbow trout, yellow perch, chain pickerel, horn pout, smelt, eel, white sucker, longnose sucker, minnows, creek chub, lake chub, more minnows. Then they just look fall fish, pearl dace, black nose dace, fin scale dace, red belly dace, common shiner, golden shiner, black nose shiner, fatheads minnow, a cusk, three-spined stickleback, pumpkin seed, sunfish, branded killifish, and freshwater sculpin. That took me 40 seconds to read. That's crazy. And up until 1978, they didn't really care about stocking this area with fish, but when the loggers pretty much stopped shipping their logs downstream, if you will, then the state of Maine said, hey, we can start stocking this for fishing because we're going to have more fishermen here. And that's exactly what happened. True story. So on this side of the road coming up, you'll note all these birdhouses that they put up on the side. I have no idea whose idea it was, but they're all decorative birdhouses. Maybe they're bat houses, but I think they're all birdhouses. And they line this really tight curve. I noticed it coming up on the direction, but now yeah. So anyway, a bit of a current going right here. And what's cool about this area, and it's over in the Bingham side where we came in, you can go white water rafting. You can go white water rafting on the Kennebec, and it starts here. And it actually depends on the amount of water that they're releasing, but at this point, I assume they're pretty good because the water tables are pretty high right now. So, white water rafting. You follow there's your power lines, and they connect to the dam right here, right in front of us. And there's your spillover areas, more spillover. And I can zoom in, you guys can take a better look here. So there's that. Spillway. Oops, other direction. Looks like something out of a movie. I mean, it looks like something that I would have seen in like, maybe in James Bond in the GoldenEye, and I'm waiting for him to show up and to do something. I wish I looked up how many of the megawatts. So if anyone's watching this and knows, feel free to put in the comments like how much power this actually does for the production process. I do know that prior to them building this, and you can tell it by the rocks over there, that I was gonna say I did know this, but there was a reason why that they chose this spot, because they already had all these natural rocks, and the falls that were here were already like, I want to say they were 300 feet high, but maybe they were just 100 feet high. But the point is that it was a natural waterfall that then they were able to make into this. All right, and you saw the part of Wyman Lake that it was formed off of, and this is all in Moscow. Whew. Mission accomplished. I guess. What do you guys think? I didn't think I was going to find it. I was turning back homeward, and there it is. See, you have Union Cemetery, which is the cemetery where Benedict Arnold's guy was, and then Robinson Memorial Cemetery. So this is the combined cemetery. Aha. Exciting, isn't it? Not at all. Not at all. Now I'm just being stubborn. We're going into the Union Cemetery, and we're looking for Joseph Kirk, a distant relative of James Tiberius Kirk. And I'm sure I can narrow it down. I could just look for a flag. But what I'm thinking, if we were combining cemeteries, okay? I'm just saying, if we're combining them, because that's what this is. They took parts of 3 different cemeteries. So on the other side of the fence is a cemetery. You got these ones here that we're walking through. This is from the 1930s. I'm thinking they planted them right over here. It sounds weird. I probably shouldn't have phrased it that way, planting, because you don't really plant a grave. But I'm thinking if I was going to move them, I put them in a separate spot so they're not like sharing space. My theory is wrong. This side appears to be all from the mid 20th century on, and they've got some newer tombstones. Crap. All right, 1863. We're getting somewhere. But this guy was in the 1700s. Now, granted, he probably doesn't have a tombstone, or they made one for him. You think that this being like the claim to fame was like, he was with Benedict Arnold. Oh, wait, he was with that traitor? 1860s. Now, these ones, I know these were ones that were moved over here because they're just really older. Well, here's some bakers. Not to be confused with the bakers, but here are the bakers, the ones we learned about. From Asa Baker, 1821. So that's kind of cool, you know. Some of the original families that were here in town. I like that. Wouldn't have known it had we not read about it. As I trek through the cemetery, random question for people that are still watching. How many people have gone to a cemetery they've never been before and they saw like their family name? Meaning like you weren't going to that cemetery to find any relatives, but then you go there kind of out of Back to the Future, and boom, there's your name. Same first name too. Has it happened to any of you? That'd be really creepy, by the way. I drove over to the other part because I was interested. I was trying to figure out whose tombstone this was right here. I see it's Janice's. She's not here yet. but she's got this super long poem. And maybe because this has been so much fun, we'll end today's session with this poem. Okay? Go placidly amid the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull. And the ignorant, they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. You may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession. In the changing fortunes of time, exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love. For in the face of all arity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imagings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham drudgery and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful and strive to be happy. Until next time, guys. Peace.